When Soviet Union collapsed, Ukraine had more nuclear weapons than France, Britain, and China combined. But why did Ukraine give up such a powerful deterrent? To understand what happened, we need to go back to 1991. For nearly 70 years, the Soviet Union had been one of the two most powerful countries on Earth. It possessed thousands of nuclear weapons aimed at the United States and its allies. But by the late 1980s, the Soviet economy was collapsing, political unrest was spreading, and republics wanted independence. Then, in December 1991, the impossible happened. The Soviet Union officially dissolved overnight. 15 new independent countries emerged. One of them was Ukraine. And scattered across Ukrainian territory was an enormous portion of the Soviet nuclear arsenal, military bases, missile silos, strategic bombers, nuclear storage facilities. Suddenly, Ukraine found itself hosting one of the largest concentrations of nuclear weapons on the planet. The world was shocked because nobody had planned for this. For decades, there had been only one Soviet nuclear power. Now there were multiple newly independent states containing Soviet nuclear weapons. Many feared chaos. Some feared nuclear proliferation. Others feared the possibility of nuclear weapons falling into the wrong hands. Ukraine possessed approximately 1,900 strategic nuclear warheads. These were mounted on long-range ballistic missiles capable of striking targets thousands of kilometers away. Many of these missiles carried multiple warheads. One missile could destroy several cities. Ukraine also inherited 176 intercontinental ballistic missiles, 40 for strategic bombers, and if tactical nuclear weapons are included, estimates rise to around 4,000 to 4,500 nuclear warheads. Ukraine briefly possessed more nuclear weapons than every country in the world except the United States and Russia. The destructive capability was almost unimaginable. A single modern nuclear warhead can devastate an entire metropolitan area. But here's the part many people don't know. Ukraine owned the territory. It did not fully control the weapons. The Soviet nuclear system had been designed to prevent rogue launches. The launch authorization codes remained in Moscow. Critical command and control infrastructure was connected to Russian military systems. Think of it this way. Imagine someone leaves a fleet of fighter jets in your garage. You possess them physically, but someone else holds the keys, the fuel controls, and the launch software. That's roughly the situation Ukraine faced. The weapons were on Ukrainian soil, but actually operating them independently would have required major technological, military, and political changes. Ukraine would have needed to build an entirely new nuclear command system from scratch, and that would not have been easy or cheap. Also, the United States was deeply concerned. Russia was deeply concerned. European governments were deeply concerned. Nobody wanted a newly independent country suddenly becoming a permanent nuclear superpower. Washington feared the spread of nuclear weapons. Russia considered itself the legal successor of the Soviet Union and wanted the arsenal returned. Diplomatic pressure increased rapidly. Ukraine found itself in a difficult position because its economy was already in crisis. Inflation was exploding. Political institutions were still being built. Maintaining thousands of nuclear weapons would cost billions of dollars. At the same time, Ukraine wanted international recognition, economic support, and integration with the global community. The message from major powers was clear: give up the nuclear weapons and receive security assurances, or keep them and face isolation. In 1994, Ukraine signed the famous Budapest Memorandum. The agreement involved Ukraine, Russia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. Ukraine agreed to transfer its nuclear warheads to Russia and join the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty as a non-nuclear state. In return, Ukraine received security assurances. The signatories pledged to respect Ukraine's independence, sovereignty, and existing borders. They also promised to refrain from the threat or use of force against Ukraine. At the time, many viewed the agreement as a diplomatic success. The world had avoided the emergence of another major nuclear power. Ukraine gained international support, and nuclear weapons began leaving Ukrainian territory. By 1996, All nuclear warheads had been removed and Ukraine was officially nuclear-free. For years, the decision seemed settled. Then history took a dramatic turn. Events in the 21st century reignited debate over Ukraine's nuclear disarmament. Many people began asking a difficult question: what if Ukraine had kept its nuclear arsenal? Would anyone have dared challenge a nuclear-armed Ukraine? Would the country's history have unfolded differently? Supporters of Ukraine's decision argue that maintaining the arsenal may have been nearly impossible. The weapons required constant maintenance. The command systems weren't fully under Ukrainian control. The economic burden would have been enormous. Critics argue the opposite. They say nuclear weapons are the ultimate deterrent. Countries with nuclear arsenals are generally far less likely to face direct military threats from other nuclear powers. This debate continues among historians, military strategists, and political leaders today. And there is no easy answer. Because history doesn't provide alternate timelines, we can only speculate. For a brief moment, Ukraine stood among the greatest nuclear powers on Earth. Then it made a decision that changed its future forever. Whether that choice was wise, unavoidable, visionary, or tragic remains one of the most hotly debated questions in international politics. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments if you were Ukraine's leader in 1994. Would you have kept the nuclear weapons or given them up?